Okay, so today we're going to be doing LeetCode problem 121, best time to buy and sell a stock, right? So taking a look at this question, you're given an array, right? Or a list or whatever you want to call it, right? With a bunch of values in it. And for this example, example one, your output is 5. So the reason for that is that you are going to be grabbing the best time to buy, right? Which will be the lowest value because the list here, everything inside represents prices, right? So, let's say you're buying a stock and a stock is $7, right, on its first day. And then the second day, the stock is worth $1, right? And then the third day it's worth $5 and $3, right? The best time to buy would be when it's $1, right? Because as the numbers increase, you make more money. So you now know that the best time to buy is when it's $1. Now, when's the best time to sell, right? Well, if you bought the stock when it's worth $1, then you want to sell the stock when it's the highest it could be. And for this instance, starting from 1, right? The stock is now worth $5 the next day, then $3 the next day, then $6 the next day, and then 4. Out of all those days, the $6 was the highest it went, right? So that would have been the best day to sell. And we're returning the index. So 0 or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So your output should be 5. So how are we going to do that, right? Now we have the logic of what we're looking for, but how are we going to get there? So the first thing we're going to do is make a couple of variables, right? We're going to make max underscore price variable, and this is going to set equal to 0, right? And then we want the lowest, right? Because we need to continuously be updating this stuff. So lowest underscore price equals prices at index 0. Now the reason why we made lowest price equal to this instead of 0 is because we are going to be comparing if this value is less than each one of these. So think about it, right? If this was 0, then we would already fail because nothing is less than 0 here. So we just set it equal to the first one. You could theoretically kind of set this to any number, right? But we just do this to keep it nice and clean. And then we're gonna do a for loop for price and prices, right? So price, this word right here, represents each one of these, right? Because prices is equal to this list. So we're iterating through the list. While price equals, for the first instance is 7, then the second instance is 1, then the third instance is 5, then the fourth instance is 3, the fifth is 6, and the sixth is 4th, right? So we're iterating through this price 6 times, and each time represents each value inside the list. Okay, so let's start off. The first thing we need to do is kind of make sure that we get the lowest price possible, right? So lowest price, we're going to do an if statement. If lowest, we could do if price is less than lowest underscore price, right? Then lowest underscore price equals price. What is this doing? So this if statement is basically saying, okay, so remember price represents each value that we're iterating to. So wherever value we may be, let's say we're in the third iteration and it's 5, right? If 5 is less than lowest price, which in this instance is equal to 7, well, yes, 5 is less than 7, right? Then we're going to change lowest price to set equal to where we're at right now, which is 5, right? So this is basically saying, okay, is 5 less than 7? Yes, it is. So then we're going to set this equal to 5. So the next time we compare, instead of is 5 less than 7, it'll be like let's say we're here, is 6 less than 5, right? Because we changed this value. So this is just updating. And then we want to get the max price, right? Or kind of like the most money that could be made. So we're going to do max underscore price. That's not an underscore. There you go. Equals max. And we're going to drop this in here again. And then we're going to do price minus max price minus lowest underscore price. Okay, so what's happening here is we're updating this max price variable, right? Because first it was equal to 0, and we're updating it, and we're using the max method, right? So what this is doing, well, it's actually a function. It's the max function, but whatever. But what's happening is we're putting in two arguments, right? Which are basically the things that go inside these parentheses. And you know they're two because it's separated by a comma. So we're putting max price in here. So it's like, okay, let's say if max price is 0, in this instance it is in the first instance, right? Okay, so we're returning the max value of 0, right? Or price minus lowest price. So, price being what we're on right now, which is 7, and lowest price is 7 as well. So this wouldn't be like the best example, but we'll go with it, right? So like you have 0 and 0, right? Like we want to return the max of either these two numbers. So let's say completely random, right? This probably isn't happening within, but let's say if this was like 5 and this was 10, right? We would return 10. We would get 10 because we want the max number of these two, and 10 is that max. So max price would equal to 10, right? And then instead of this being equal to 0, this would be equal to 10 in whatever the iteration we're in, right? And so on. So with all that being done, if we return max underscore price, right, we should get our answer. There you go, and it works perfect. So let's submit it. Beautiful. Okay, so like I mentioned, looking at the example, right, we're checking through the entirety of this list with this for loop, right? We need to make two variables, right? Two variables to keep track of our lowest price, right? Because we're basically starting from that lowest price. The second we find a value that is less than anything else, it's like, okay, like look at this lowest price, right? And see when the best time to sell was after this day. Because that is, that's what makes this question so easy and not so complex, is that you're just looking for the lowest value, right? So for this example, it would be 1. We would look at 1 and just look at all the values after. That's why we subtract this by the lowest price, because the lowest price is always 1 after this, right? You go to 5, 1 isn't less than 5. You go to 3, 3 isn't less than 1, right? You look at 6, 6 isn't less than 1, right? So you are always subtracting whatever price we're on to 1. And then you're just returning that max value because that's the amount of profit you're making. If you bought the stock for $1 and the stock went up to $6 on the 5th day, you make $5 in total, right? That's why you subtract this and return the max. That's why you get 5, right? But overall, that's really what you do. It's pretty self-explanatory. Create two variables to keep track of your max and low. You do a for loop to iterate through everything, and you return max price once this loop is done. What that means is once we've iterated through 7, 1, 5, 3, 6, and 4, then this loop stops working, right? We stop doing whatever's in this code, and we just return our variable max price.